My name is Justin Krieg, and I work for the Historic Columbus Foundation. Thank you all for coming this evening. We appreciate you coming out, and hopefully those of you who are joining us tomorrow, this will be a good primer for what's to come in a little bit more detail tomorrow morning. But we first off want to thank CB&T for hosting us tonight. Helen Johnson, I know that she's done a lot of work making this space available to us tonight and tomorrow, so we appreciate it very much. And of course, we've got our community sponsors: Historic Columbus, the Incremental Development Association, Midtown Inc., the Community Foundation of the Chattahoochee Valley, the Coalition for Sound Growth, and I also want to mention the Jackson Bergen Foundation. Will Bergen has worked tirelessly, probably for months, to help organize tonight and tomorrow, bringing in a great host of speakers that will hopefully change the way you think when it comes to development and commercial development in our city. And so we're really excited to kick off Historic Columbus's 8th annual Preservation for Profit tonight. As many of you know, Historic Columbus is in its 50th year. And so we're beginning to take a strategic look over these past 12 months at the projects that we've had and kind of where we're headed in the next 50 years. And part of that examination has been trying to understand exactly where we're going and what type of projects and programs we're going to develop in the future. One of the things that we've kind of come across as time has passed and we've looked at what we've done is that more often we're finding ourselves in the mode of being community revitalizers. We're working in neighborhoods. We're stabilizing properties and finding ways to incentivize individuals and activate underused properties. And I think you're going to begin to hear a little bit more tonight and tomorrow about how that plays a role in making our community a better place and how current development patterns are somewhat troublesome, especially when it comes to helping finance in a long-term fashion for our community, how kind of outside or suburban development kind of moves in the wrong direction from a long-term financial perspective for our community. So I think you'll be encouraged and enlightened a little bit tonight with some of the dialogue that takes place, and hopefully you've got some good questions after we discuss. But to get things started, I do want to bring up Will Bergen to introduce our keynote speaker for the evening. So, Mr. Bergen.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am so very excited that you're here. I'm excited that our guests are here. I'm very pleased with what is going on. So I bring greetings first as the president of Historic Columbus Foundation. This is my 2-year stint in serving in that role, and so I'm very pleased at the work that Historic Columbus is doing. We have been community building for a long time, and that community building at HCF started with saving one building. And then it became saving a collection of buildings. And then it was a neighborhood, several neighborhoods. And we're very pleased now, as we look at 50 years of work, that we are talking about our city going forward and how best to preserve and promote and grow Columbus in that way. And in that 50 years, we have tried to be both inspiring, educational, and motivational in the way we bring these things. And the lunch and lectures that we've been hosting have certainly been a rearward look and a forward motivation for us. We're in the 50th years, and so we are doing a capital campaign. And I hope that most of you in here have been approached about our capital campaign. I hope you have made pledges, and those that have, I want to say thank you. I'll be the very first one. If you don't know anything about the capital campaign, I'm not letting you out of this room. But that is one way that you can certainly help us going forward for Historic Columbus. But the second way that you can help us is to actually become inspired to become an incremental or small developer. Because the truth is, nobody's coming to build the city that we want to see. The people who are going to build the city that we want are sitting in this room. They're the ones who will be joining us tomorrow. They're your friends, they're your neighbors, they're anybody who points at something and says, that should be something else. So therefore, we're here today to sort of help with that vision and to motivate you to be that individual. And so we're very pleased to be working with the Incremental Development Alliance and some others that work with them closely to help bring that message and to give you reasons to be here and to understand. So generally, I just want to say thank you to those that came in and took time off their schedule in that group, some people that you'll see tomorrow. So Grayson Johnson will wave, and Glenn Kellogg will speak, and John Anderson. Jim Kuhlman will be helping us after Joe Minicozy speaks as our keynote tomorrow afternoon. We got Susanna Dancy and Monte Anderson. Monte Anderson is coming tonight, and he's going to kick us off, and we're very excited that this is our kickoff. We're very excited that he's here because he has actually done this work. This is leading by example, not telling you what you should do, but he has shown people. Monte is the president of Options Real Estate, a multi-service real estate company specializing in creating financially stable neighborhoods in and around Dallas, where he was both born and raised. His development practice is focused in 3 areas in North Texas: the southern neighborhoods of the city of Dallas, the first-ring suburb of Duncanville, and the ex-urban town of Midlothian. He is most widely known for the redevelopment and renovation of the historic Belmont Hotel, a 68-room boutique hotel, cafe, and spa in the Oak Cliff area of Dallas. Through dozens of partnerships with owner-occupied entrepreneurs, he has revitalized the neighborhood around the Belmont and is also along the one-story main street of Duncanville. Monte is also incrementally building a 131-acre mixed-use walkable development and will extend the fabric of the existing small town, connected to schools, parks, small retail buildings, and a multi-generational housing. Monte is the co-founder of the Incremental Development Alliance and is a senior faculty member of its real estate training courses. Monte? Thank you.
Good evening. Glad to be here. And as I drove into Columbus, I didn't get to see much. I didn't get to see Midtown, but I did get to drive in on 8th Street over here off the major freeway or the road coming in. And when I knew I was in a good place when I turned the corner and I saw about an 800 square foot hot dog stand. Shotgun hot dog. Does anybody know the name of that? And then a barbershop across the street and another shotgun. And so that's my kind of stuff. So why are we here tonight? I mean, we're here because of the way development has gone over the last 50 years in this country. If you'll notice on the slide up there, that what you normally see in development is developers building from about 10 million up to a billion or more. And what's missing, and then you'll also see tactical urbanism or markets down at the bottom, and you see a lot of that starting to happen all over the country, but you're not seeing anything from that 0 to 30, from $0 to up to 10 million. And so what we're charged with at IDA is to create 1,000 developers like us to help us fill in and rebuild this country like it was built over 100 years ago. This is not new. This is old stuff. We're just kind of recreating it. So you've all seen this chart with the ascension of man. And development is much the same way. It's always evolving. And one of the slides I like to use here is the first thing that you do is, you have a house somewhere. And then once you have a house in a neighborhood and nothing's going on and you want to see something exciting, you have a street market. And then from the street market you go to maybe an RV trailer or a kiosk into a little entrepreneur-owned building, or then maybe a fourplex, and then maybe a little bit bigger mixed-use building. So you can see the evolution of the small developer. Now, the first thing that I tell all the towns that we talk to and all the developers, small developer wannabes, is you got to find a farm. So it appears to me that Columbus and Midtown here would be somebody's really good farm. I see a lot of opportunity, a lot of buildings still, a lot of really good things. Some of you can tell in the downtown here that somebody has really cared for this downtown. I've only had one stroll down the street, but I can tell that there's been a lot of work gone into this area right now for a long time, for not just a few years. So you got to find your farm. So I have 3 farms, and I'll show them to you in a minute. But find your farm, live in your farm, start local markets, find local entrepreneurs, rent or sell to locals, and repeat. So the farms that I have are starting in right south of downtown Dallas on the south side of the river, which is the side of the river that the have-nots lived on, or the wrong side of the railroad track. And that's where I grew up my whole life. I was one of the guys that stayed and continued to work there, even when all my friends moved away. Now, all of my friends moved away to Duncanville, what you see in the middle, which is a first-ring suburb. And then, over the years, they began to move from Duncanville to Midlothian, to the next place. So as you can see, wherever they went, they left a hole like a rotting apple. It was just like a cancer or rotting apple, and it just rotted from the inside out. And so these three places, my family is strung out from in these three cities, and that's why I work in these three cities, is trying to rebuild them. One of them, the Midlothian, is trying to direct it in a better direction so it doesn't have to go through the rotting stage. So starting off with the right south of downtown Dallas, we call it Oak Cliff, and as you can see, what I look for first is I look for the kind of the roughest neighborhood closest to where there's good things going on. And the city of Dallas and the downtown had started doing work and rebuilding their downtown a number of years ago. And so I looked right across the river where there was good gridded streets. A good gridded street, that's a street without a cul-de-sac usually. And that was close to the downtown, and they were built in the early part of the 20th century. And so that's the area I established as my first farm. So step number one is a small developer. Now, you want to be a small developer, and you don't know what to do first. Well, the first thing you do is move to your farm. Buy a house. All of you have to have a house, right? Move into the farm. As you can see in Dallas, these are all part of my developments. There's a little bit modern, and you see the first ring suburb with actually an accessory dwelling unit out back where there's an office and that. And then down in Midlothian, it looks like a historic home, but it's actually a new home that we've built. So the next thing you do after you've moved into your farm is you get a street market. Now, there's a reason for doing these street markets. It's not an event. This is about business. In our street markets, the way we measure our successes is, did the person in the tent make money? Because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a capitalist. I'm about making money. I'm not about creating cute sidewalk cafes unless they serve the higher purpose of either making money or making the city better. So the reason that we established this market here in Duncanville, one of the first ones, was it had a prime location on Main Street, and as you can see where it's located, there was nothing. It was a one-sided Main Street, so we wanted to create the other side. So we created it with a form-based code, which means the tents were right up against the street. It created traffic for the existing businesses. It also helped us develop up-and-coming entrepreneurs, and also we used it as recycling. Get that junk out of your garage, get that stuff out of your life, get it out here on the street and sell it, and make a little bit of extra money. This is a very middle-class to lower middle-class neighborhood, and people making $200 or $300, $400 once a month extra was a big deal for us in that neighborhood. Another street market in the south part of this area, we were taking old shopping centers and try to put some life back in them, just a little bit of fun, some bounce houses, some trailers would sell food or sell candles or sell different jewelry, things like that. So we would do this once a month in the parking lot of these suburban-looking shopping centers. This is a new development in the really hard part of South Dallas, where the median income is like $10,000. And in this area, they had built a new hospital, a county hospital. Well, the county hospital didn't really do anything for the neighborhood, but it was close to a train station, and it was close to a very good old gridded neighborhood. And so the first thing that we do when we go there is we start a street market. And the street market here we didn't bring people from other parts of the city into the street market. We really cultivated the locals. So if we couldn't get the locals to do this, if we had to prop it up, it was not going to be sustainable. So there's some of the items in one of the first markets, and this one here has been in existence 3 months, and it's just taken off like crazy. And the locals have taken it over, and I don't have to do anything but help set it up each week, each month. This is an area just west, you can see in the background, downtown Dallas, and this is an area where I never thought I would see people walking down a street. It's one of the only areas in all of Dallas where there's a 6-lane road, an old highway, and you've seen these big 6-lane roads with the buildings back off the street, and you see here a building on the street and people walking. I never thought I would see that in my lifetime. Now the reason it's there is because we started with things like this, the open markets and things, and these open markets saw that there was a market for selling tamales and tacos or getting your nails done, and there was a market, and that brought the bigger development on. So one thing that we believe in, and we've got 2 of these that are running now. They're local design studios. Now that's not a new concept. Many cities around the country have design studios, but this is one that started at my conference table in my office of community citizens and activists and stakeholders who decided that they were going to decide what the city that they live in was going to look like. We weren't going to wait around for the politicians and the planning and zoning and some other developer to come to town. We locals got together and we decided we were going to decide where the bike lanes went, how big our roads were going to be, how many food trucks we put on the street, were the buildings set up against the street. And so we started as stakeholders, and then we joined up with the Chamber of Commerce, and then the city came along with us, and now a comprehensive plan is going on in that city, and they're looking to the design studio about what to do. So this is some of the results. Early on is that we hired a planner, and he came in, and he took our main street, made the sidewalks wider, and put landscaping in, and made it a lot more usable. As you'll see, the slide on the left is what it was. It was 4 lanes with a railroad track and an old feed store, and on the right was just a big parking lot. We downsized the road from 4 to 3 lanes. It's got a slip lane with head-in parking up against the buildings, and it's an area that's completely been revitalized now. It's nearly all 1- and 2-story buildings too. So I always start from the bottom and try to go up. So again, if you wanted to start a hot dog stand or wanted to start a restaurant, maybe it'd be better to start a hot dog stand first and a trailer. And maybe you don't just start a regular hot dog stand, maybe you start a legendary hot dog stand. Because a hot dog stand will be beneficial to the local neighborhood. Local neighborhoods in a poor neighborhood like I work in, they can afford hot dogs. But if you become legendary in that trailer, then all of the people, all the business guys from downtown, they will start to come over and stand in line at your hot dog stand. So you can see some of the projects we got there: a kiosk and 2 trailers. That pink trailer's a nail. She does nails in there. So this is a project that we worked on this 6-lane road. As you see in the top slide, there was an RV park and trailer park, and had a little bit of grass area right up against the curb. So we took 8 trailers and turned them sideways and put them up against the curb, and then painted the outside lane, the 6th lane. We painted it for parallel parking. And then in these trailers, we began to get a snow cone stand, a Cuban sandwich place. We got an insurance office. And then about the time we got the 4th trailer in, the big developer comes along and builds this apartment building. But the big developer knew he was in a different area. He knew he couldn't just come in and build one of these awful 4 or 5-story condos with retail on the bottom that usually doesn't work very good, and a parking structure in the back. He built a 3-story building, kind of low, fit our zoning, kept the sidewalks, and kept the parallel parking. So he behaved different because of what we had done with our incremental process. So this is a project right next door. This was an old tire shop, and one thing that I do is, for you preservationists, I never tear down anything. Rarely, I should not say never. But this was one that we took as a tire store and turned it into an outdoor beer garden, and it's called the Foundry Bar and Chicken Scratch. And you see that in the bottom right-hand slide there that it looks, it's a band shell. It's made out of pallets. So nearly the whole thing was made out of recycled wood. It's a very popular place in Dallas. Not in August too much because it's 110 degrees. But so some more of our projects. If you look at on the left side of this this slide here is a barber shop there, and it's in the middle of one of the coolest little neighborhoods in the North Oak Cliff area called Bishop Arts. And that barber shop is 600 square feet. And the kid that rented that space is paying like $70 per square foot rent. So why would $70 square foot was like 3 times the rent in that area, which was already pretty high, $70. The reason he could pay $70 because it was in such a perfect location that people walked by and he didn't have to do any advertising. So the landlord, could get really high rents for getting really small space and in the right key location. So see, if he was in 2,000 or 3,000 square feet, he could still pay the same rent if he was in 600 square feet. So he's been hugely successful. The one on the bottom right is the first mixed-use building I ever did. It's 1,100 square feet down for an office, doctor's office, and 1,100 square foot apartment on the top. So this is the evolution of a fire station. Many cities have these old fire stations. This one happened to be mine. And you can see what it looked like in the 20s. And then over the years, we turned it into a architect's and a graphic artist studio. And today it's Gloria's restaurant, which is one of the premier restaurants in all of North Oak Cliff. It probably does about $7 million a year in Mexican food sales. This is an old house that was next to my historic hotel, which we'll look at in a minute. And this old house was built in the 20s, and it was set on an acre of land. And when I bought it, I intended to tear it down or move it, to take it someplace. And this was before I had evolved to where I am today. But I just couldn't stand it to tear it down. It's an acre of land. I was going to build a 4-story condo, just like all the other knuckleheads. I was going to build the same thing. And over time, the economy got bad, 2008, 2009, so I couldn't do anything. So what I decided to do was figure out how to keep it. So we drew a barn on the back to create a work-live with a studio, and you live in the house, and you build a building next to it for your work. Because a lot of people that I know in work-live don't like to actually be in the same space. But we thought this is a different way to twist this. Let's see what it looks like when we get through. And so there it is today. We restored the house, we built the barn on the back, and now we've got a photographer who lives in here, and he works back there, and he's a very famous photographer and does a lot of commercial work. He actually makes a lot of money as a photographer. He's not a starving photographer. And so this was a project where next to my hotel where I needed an entrepreneur really bad next to me. I needed somebody next to me. Nobody would come. So I helped assist in financing and the down payment of this project. And then once he paid me back and he got me off the loan, then he ends up owning the project himself. And this is where we had our Dallas boot camp, where Will was at. So this is a little old post office in downtown Duncanville, and it was used as an antique shop. You've seen them. You've got old buildings. They've been an antique shop and an old bookstore, garage sale. So we just took the roof off and put 2 apartments on the top. We have an office downstairs and 2 apartments on the top. Another old building, I say I never tear down a building, but this building here had the carpet on the floor, and it looks good on the front, but it's really not. And this is actually a building we had to tear down. It's a 30-foot wide lot by 90-foot deep. And so it was on the tax rolls for $13,000. You've probably got some of those lots, I guess, around here in Columbus like that. And so we tore it down, and we built this. This is a 2,700 square foot building, and it's got 2 900 square foot storefronts on the front side facing the main street. Now the reason we do 900 square feet, because we can get the same rent for 900 square feet as we can for 2,000. 900 square feet, we have $20 a square foot. 2,000, that's like $10 a square foot. So by changing the scale, we're able to get the rent. So wherever you're at, new building will work. It's just a matter of the size where you're at and the scale. And the back end, out the back, we created 2 little flats, apartments. You can see they're very simple. Concrete floors with sealed and white boxes, little bitty kitchens, and they're 450 square feet. And in Duncanville, Texas, nothing would rent for over about $1 a square foot, and these here rent for like $1.50 a square foot because of the size. So this is an interesting slide here. This is at the top. You'll see the 2 buildings I just showed you. in Duncanville on Main Street. And as you go down south towards 67, you'll see the city put in a new Costco. And in their Costco, they gave them tons of money and sewer and water and all those kinds of things. And the Costco is there today, and it's a decent store, and you can get stuff in there. And it's on the tax rolls. It's for $8.1 million, 16 acres, $492,000 an acre. And the city thinks they've really done well. Well, look at the two buildings I just showed you on Main Street. The littlest one is on the tax rolls for $6.3 million per acre. And the other one's on the tax rolls for $4 million per acre. So as you see, if building a healthy city, it's not these big boxes sometimes are deteriorating your city because of the cost of the infrastructure that goes to it. Now, Joe Miniconi tomorrow, he will tell you a lot more about these numbers. Another old post office, in the early days, we couldn't get retail to come. They wouldn't come to the downtown, and maybe you have some neighborhoods like that where you don't have retail that'll come, but you got a good building. So we found a call center. This was basically an answering service. When you call and you order 800 Dallas Cowboys, order a jersey, you're going to be calling Duncanville, Texas most of the time. This was a real estate office, and we were able to turn it into a pet store. And these are all owner-occupied also, by the way. These were all locals, and they were my buildings at one time, and then we wanted the owner-occupants, because the owner-occupants, just like an owner-occupied neighborhood, gave me major stakeholders. And when the times got tough, they weren't going to leave their leases. They stayed. Here was an old mechanic shop, and now it's an outreach center, because we're in a very modest income area, and we still have problems with food and electricity bills and people that need things all the time, and that's what they do here. They have a retail store. This was an old church. It had passed its time. It didn't have parking, so we converted the sanctuary into a dance studio. We cut some storefronts in the side of the church, and we have our donut shop, a hair salon, an insurance office, and a recording videography studio. Now, down in one of my developments, we wanted to build retail, but we couldn't build a big retail shopping center. So we decided to go back to old school ways of the way we used to build towns, where the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker would build their little buildings, and they'd live in the top. Or they would rent the top out to one of the employees. So this is what we did here. This is four different buildings. And we started off with the donut shop. And as you can see them today, they're owned by the occupants. They have a common wall, just like you do in your downtown, and they're platted separately, so they're not a condo. So the donut shop owns his, the next person owns theirs, and then the insurance company owns the next, and he's even got a rental space, which we'll look at in just a second. So the back of the donut shop, it was 1,700 square feet, 25 feet wide, and the front part is 1,000 square feet, and it's donuts, and the back 700 square feet is an apartment. So you've got a rental unit there. The donut maker that came and owns this building sold his house and used that money to buy this, and moved his family of four in that 700 square feet to start his donut shop, to build wealth for his family. So he had always been a renter. He didn't know about owning real estate and owning a property like that. So the insurance guy, as you can see there, down the bottom side, this building has 3 tenants in it. The insurance entrepreneur, I call this the insurance entrepreneur, building owner, investor, landlord. Okay, this is a 1,700 square foot building. On the bottom side he occupies. And lease number A on the top is a t-shirt place in 500 square feet. And by going down in size to 500 square feet, he can get $1,000 a month for 500 square feet. That makes it financeable. It makes it buildable. Makes the pro forma work, of which John will talk about a lot more about tomorrow. And then in the back suite, he's got a psychologist. In the middle, he's got one restroom and all 3 tenants and one break counter, and all 3 tenants have a door to go into that restroom. And his secretary keeps the place clean and keeps coffee made back there, so they share the space. 1 meter, one water meter, 1 electric meter, and so it's very efficient, and this is the way it works. It was a total investment of about $250,000. And because he was a farmer's insurance guy, they had a program for financing where he could put $25,000 down. And so his payment was $1,358 a month, and he took in $1,500 in income from the other two tenants. So he went from being a tenant in a building, paying a landlord somewhere else, to being his own wealth builder. This is a little project in downtown Duncanville that struggled getting started, but now is getting some legs. And it was a work-live townhome community of about 30 units. As you can see, the buildings are built close to the road, parallel parking on the streets and sidewalks. And the way they're built, this is 2 units, and downstairs you could have an office in a small space there. And the interesting thing about this is you could finance it like with an FHA mortgage. So the occupant has got like an attorney's office or a piano teacher or a psychologist downstairs, and you walk up the stairs and you live upstairs. So this is a project that in fact, I live in this project. It's in downtown Duncanville, and it's 22,000 square feet with retail and restaurants on the bottom floor and 14 loft apartments on the top floor. And my partner is the Duncanville Community and Economic Development Corporation. And we've been partners for over 10 years. And in the beginning, when we were going to build it, we needed it was a $3 million project, and we needed about $1 million to make it work in cash from the city. Well, it just didn't feel right to me as a developer of taking 30%, and it just didn't feel right. And I didn't want to be in that position as the developer, the bad developer who took all that money. So we formed a partnership, a limited partnership, of which they own 32% and I own 68%. And today it's operating at 100% occupancy. And because we created little spaces, 900 square foot spaces, we were able to get $16 to $18 per square foot versus $5 a square foot, which is what they were getting on Main Street before we started. This is what one of the loft apartments looks like. It's concrete floors and steel bar joists. It's very simple. And there's what the site plan looks like. You can see the head-in parking on the Main Street over to the left, and parallel parking on the other street, and all the extra parking in the back. And see how shallow the spaces are on the one long wing. They're 30 feet deep by 30 feet wide. So a guy renting 900 square feet got a lot of storefront. This is back in Dallas again. This is my Belmont Hotel project, and this was a motor court hotel built on the highway from Dallas to Fort Worth. It's 6 lanes, like I talked about a minute ago. It's been downsized now to 4 lanes, and I bought a hotel that was the occupants were either addicted to crack or prostitutes mostly, and about half of it was not habitable. But it was a great looking structure. It was setting on a hill. It was had all the right bones and all the right pieces. And this is what it looked like when we bought it in 2003. And this is what it looked like in 2016. This is what it looks like now. As you can see the streets, you can see the bike lanes, which are just painted stripes today. But now we're starting work as we speak on creating protected bike lanes. So it's a 4-lane road with parallel parking and bike lanes on the street. And it had garages where you could pull in. Back in the 40s when it was built, you could pull in your car into a garage. And we took all the concrete out and put gardens in between the little bungalows. The restaurant that was next door to it looked like this, and it should have been torn down. But again, just couldn't tear it down. The architecture was so good. It was a famous architect by the name of Charles Dilbeck. And so we restored it into Smoke Restaurant. Today, it's a restaurant that does about $5 million a year in sales. And they told us we would never do over $1.8 million in sales over in that area. We did $5 million last year. Also have another piece next door. So we pieced these. This was a print shop that we turned into a health club. And by the way, an entrepreneur runs the restaurant. I owned the hotel and ran the hotel. An entrepreneur owned the restaurant and runs it. And another entrepreneur ran this health club. So I was not going to be a real estate developer. It was bad enough being a real estate developer trying to run a hotel, but a restaurant and a health club too, that was a disaster. And bankers, if there's any bankers in here, you would run from a developer who does that. So I had all these entrepreneurs around me. I call them my guards, and they took care of me. So, next to the hotel on this site, on the street, you can see was a big parking lot, and when you walk down the street, when you're walking down the street and you're walking in front of buildings, it's real fun. But when you walk across the parking lot, it's not fun, right? It's not fun. So we needed to fix the urban form. So what we did was we decided to do the suburban parking lot repairs, put these little 500 square foot kiosks in the front of the parking lot. Because see, I needed to still see in the parking lot. I needed people to see that people were in my hotel, that were coming to the hotel. So we repaired the front, the urban form, with this. Now I sold it, this hotel last year before this got built. So this was a good plan, and one of the few that I do that didn't get built. And they're not gonna do it. But it's a good way to repair, like a suburban shopping center. You've got a big box at the back, and you've got all this frontage on the street that nobody cares about. So you could put these little kiosks, or you could put trailers on the front, where you can still see maybe the grocery store that's left behind, because you've probably got something in their lease that says you can't cover them up. So it's a good way to put entrepreneurial starting buildings or trailers or tents in the front of the parking lot. This is a vet clinic that's also next door to us, and it's an owner-occupant. And as you can see, it has parallel parking on the street, and the front door also faces the street. And these are some of the houses behind it. In this development is housing, hotel, restaurant, health club, and all done in pieces and all done since 1999. That's when I started on this. And so you see these houses here, modern-looking houses here, and they sell for about $300 a square foot in an area that was selling for about $150 to $200. The top house to the left, there's one of my favorite. It's a little two-story house. It's on less than 900 square feet of land, and it's 800 square feet, 810 square feet. And it's all the living, and it's got a garage. So it's got a bedroom downstairs and a little livings upstairs. It's really cute, and it's really cool. So what were some of the newest projects that we're doing now, and I'm working with another small developer. As you see, what I do is work with other small developers because I can't finance all this stuff together. So we collaborate together. So here they are. That's me with the three young guys that are building the townhomes in my development. The financing is something that I wasn't trained to do. I didn't go to school to do. I just learned to do out of pure desperation, out of just trying to figure out how to get something going in my city. And so this is a car that you would see commonly in South Dallas. And this is what my financing looks like. Loan number one for the hotel was with one bank on one platted property. Number two was with our local development corporation. Number three was with the restaurant was done with credit cards, family, and friends. Number four was done with another bank, another small bank, which was the housing at the top. Number five was done with another small bank I know, which was the health club. Number six was the vet clinic done with another bank through an SBA loan. Number seven was done in partnership with the photographer. And then number 8 was the spec one. We would do one spec home at a time with another bank. So I had all these little banks, and I just hoped that each one of them didn't know that I had loans with the other one, because no one would give me enough money to do the whole thing. So you see, one of the things that we teach in the Incremental Development Alliance is how to break this stuff down to be able to do it one at a time, because this project is no way a project I could have done all at once. So here's the numbers on it. In 2004, when I built it, we had about $5 million in it, $5.5 million in it. And appraised, the bank was so nervous about me being here that we weren't going to make it. They would have it appraised every year, which is common with banks. And it appraised for $3,995,000. So my net worth went down over $1 million by building this hotel. And so the next year it went up barely to 4.2, then to 4.3, and then 2010 hit, it went down to 4.2, and in 2012 we were learning what to do after we fired the third management company and had to run this hotel ourselves. It went to 5.9, and then in 2015 we sold it for $12 million. Now what happened? What happened is incrementally we were building all over around it. So it has the flywheel effect, as John will talk about tomorrow more, is the flywheel effect. Is if I was building things out in one city and another, I would have never built the momentum that I built that caused us to get all the money from this project. So we don't do it by ourselves. We're very involved with community activists, and this is a planned development. These are people from the Fort Worth Avenue Development Group who are all my friends. We create art on the streets, and we watch the zoning. We try to keep the big developers in line. As you can see there's Dallas. The artist is making fun of Dallas because Dallas thinks that everything has to be big, and we're the anti-big. And so this is some street art. It's a magic bike, and some across the street. We have the Bark Belmont, which is a dog park, and so this is all going on at the same time. One of my projects, another one that only took a short time to work on. I started working on it in 1999. It's the Texas Theater. It's where Oswald was captured after he shot President Kennedy. And so it had been vacant for many years, and I was part of the Oak Cliff Foundation, which was a nonprofit, and we bought it and restored it back into an operating theater. And the way we do that is this way. So we bought it for a really cheap price, like $400,000, and we had to put a lot of money into it. But we got some forgivable loans from the federal government. We got some loans from local CDCs, our local Community Development Corporation, and then we raised a lot of money. And so we only had about $250,000 in debt, but we didn't know how to run a theater. So one day we were sitting around after about 10 years it took us to figure this out. And we would just barely make the payments every month. And I thought, Monte, you're a real estate guy. This is a piece of real estate. Lease it. So we found a small theater company of some young guys, and we leased it to them really cheap. And they're filmmakers, and they play film now and make their films, and this is their home base, the infamous Texas Theater. So we have a cash-flowing theater, which is very rare for one of these Main Street theaters to cash flow. So this is our Midlothian project. This is the second ring, and this is a cradle to grave, because on the north side of this development is a cemetery, and on the south side is a hospital. So you can be born and live right through our development and die and be placed in the ground right next to it. And so we're here where it says Midtown. We have our own Midtown, and then you can see where downtown is. And we're surrounded by the downtown and the high school, the football stadium, and the junior high school. So, I mean, what perfect place could you be in? So this is a big infill project. It's 130 acres, but will take 25 years to do it. In 2007, when we started, it looked a certain way, and what happened over time is you evolve doing it incrementally. You learn better ways to do it. In 2016, it looks a little different. And down in Midlothian, you have the same thing in building the big box. There's the new Walmart. It's on the tax rolls for $469,000. And then here's our little buildings in the downtown buildings that are there, and they're not even at full value, that are on the tax rolls for $2 million in the existing downtown and $1.3 million in ours per acre in our development. So when we look at doing the development, what we look at is taking a cue from the past. This is what the old downtown looked like, and so that's where we took our cues to build what we built. And there's those three buildings I showed you earlier, and then we have a new taco place coming as we speak. It'll be the next building. These are some buildings here that Anderson Kim designed for us. These are these are retail on the bottom. They're entrepreneur owned. So you see the two spaces on the bottom. There's two retail spaces down there and two on the top are residential spaces. They're 2,800 square feet. So you've got about 700 each on the bottom and about 700 each on the top residential. This is what the floor plans look like. You can see on the bottom it's an open retail area. On the top floor you can see the bedrooms and the kitchen. This is our newest project. This is a pharmacy that we're just finishing up, and it's a 3,000 square foot pharmacy that's another piece in our puzzle. It's got head-in parking off the street. It's owner occupied by the local pharmacist. And as you can see on the site plan, they had to have a drive-through, and normally we don't like to do drive-throughs in our urban development. So We figured out how to put the drive-through in the back, which is on the bottom side of the paper. It's got head-in parking on the street. So everything we do always has head-in or parallel parking. The building's close to the road, and the doors facing the road. Everything. This is what it looks like today. We call it our sub-urban development, and you can see we're about 35% finished in that development. And in the beginning, this was we bought the property from the Hopper family descendants, and they had owned it from the beginning of time. There was an 1880s house. That's what it looked like before, and when we restored it, we turned it into a hair salon and the barn into a yoga studio, and now it's a key part of our development. That building there, that hair salon, this one, is owned by an entrepreneur, and the price of that was $325,000, and he needed $65,000 to buy that. And he didn't have $65,000. He had $32,500. But I had a fee built in it, a development fee for $65,000. So what I did was I moved and put the base in, put the foundation in for him, got it all set up, and then we let him come in and do the finish out. And so we gave him half of our fee. And that's how he got his down payment. And I don't know about you, anybody ever had a builder build you a house in here? Okay, in the end, you had to go in and probably just about finish it yourself. So the owner of a building, or this entrepreneur, was going to be better actually finishing than I was. So it was a perfect match. So he got a little money. He got to finish it. I didn't have to finish it. I don't like to do the punch list on these buildings, and so it worked out really well. And there's historic Midlothian. There's what the homes look like that were there. And we took the cue. When we started building our buildings, there's one of our new houses. And there's some that are up right now that are being built. And the one on the bottom right-hand corner was designed by John Anderson, Bruce Toller, and those guys. It's very simple, good clean lines, very efficient space, lots of windows. There's good sidewalks. Everything's got porches. The smaller lots than we would have built back in the 40s or 20s. There's some more of the houses in the area. And then this was a tax credit apartment building that came to town. And what we wanted to do with this big wide road is, again, we're trying to downsize these roads, and we put parallel parking on the street. And as you can see, that white line has been moved in a little bit. It's our way of kind of sneaking around the city of downsizing this big 5-lane street. And all of these porches on these apartments over here became very active, because what we did was instead of just having a patio there, we made them put some steps out, like you would have seen in old row houses. And now, I was over there yesterday looking at this thing. Every single patio on this apartment had stuff on it and had people sitting on it. And most of these apartment buildings that you see out there, they'll be empty. There will be nothing on those patios because they're not usable. But because we made them put the steps in, the cars parked on the street, the sidewalks started to activate. So by using the cars, we actually activated the sidewalks by the way we built the apartment complex. And this was a tax credit deal, so it's a lower income deal, which was very controversial with the community when we put it in. And because this is a multi-generational development, we have a memory care assisted living, and today it's going and very popular. So you got people living in the neighborhood. They got parents and or husbands and wives in memory care and assisted living right next to each other. So it's like my grandmother. She lived just far enough away in the assisted living when I was growing up. It was very hard to get there. We'd drive, there, and we hadn't been in a while because it's too far away, and she'd be mad at us. And by the time we got there, because she was mad, then we wanted to go, so we didn't want to come back. So this thing here was, the inspiration behind this was that on the way home every day, right when I'm driving by there, I can take her a Snickers bar and fix her remote control. Okay, one more time. On the way home, stay 10 or 15 minutes. That would have been as good as any long visit, but you could do it every day. So it was carefully designed into the neighborhood for our quality of life of our family. This is our newest project. This is 127,000 square foot old manufacturing. It was the Dixie Wax Paper Company. It was a polluter of the air. It was a polluter of the ground, and it was a polluter of the water. It was built in 1922, and DART, our high-speed rail train, built a station right next to it. And so in May 27th, just recently, we bought it. And it looked like that from the roof. There's a lot of incinerators and things on the roof, lots of equipment. You can see them sticking up. We took them down. We took 250,000 pounds of stuff off the roof, laid it on the ground. It was everywhere. Started tearing off all the excess parts of the building that were added on over the years. This is where we're at today. We discovered windows and all kinds of things behind what we tore down. This will be a co-working village for small startup and small manufacturing type creatives will come in. So the welders, carpenters, sculpture makers, people like that. So it'll be a co-working village. You can see we instead of putting walls, you have this big open space, and if you go in and put sheetrock walls and divide up all the spaces in these places, you can never afford to do it. And code and everything will kill you. So what we do is we paint stripes on the floor, say here's your square, you put you a toolbox or cabinet up, we might put you a chain link fence up, but that's how, and everybody works together. So when you're walking down the hall in this place, you might see, a welder doing something and a carpenter doing something, sculptor doing, and so you're seeing them. They're not hidden, and it's loud and it's busy and there's things going on in there. And this is right in the middle of a neighborhood in downtown Dallas and south of downtown Dallas. It's a rare piece that was zoned industrial, and so we're taking advantage of the rail and that zoning. And so things we've done, we've won a whole lot of awards, and I won't bore you with that. I don't even know why we put that in there, but we do get awards for doing that. And so I always like to go with this when I end 12 steps here of going to the moon. So we all in our cities, all of you and me, we always want to go. We always want this new cool building built, or we want a new park or new street or whatever. So we always want going to the moon. So in my mind, we want to go to the moon. But what happens with most real estate people and most developers and most communities, you have these planning charrettes and you have all these things, and you probably had 1,000 of them here, and then nothing happens. So you're maybe on the bottom of the ocean today and you want to go to the moon. What you have to do is you have to take one step at a time. And so the first step is you got to get a mast to get up on the beach. And by the time you get up on the beach, you got to get your rocket built. And you got to worry about fuel when you're going into the moon. If you start worrying about fuel, step 8, 9, and 10, while you're still on the bottom of the ocean, what will happen? You'll quit. And so this type of work is an incremental process. It's one step at a time. And you need those steps to have success so your brain can get ready for the next step. And the answers will come into play when you do this. They'll come into. You'll be able to see the answers when you take that one step at a time. So this is a quote I like, because one of the things that we do in Dallas County, the African American community, which I mostly work in, the net worth is $6,000. That's 50 years after civil rights. The average net worth for a white family is $190,000. In 1960, before civil rights, it was closer. And so in South Dallas, the people have not built any wealth. And so the only way I know to build wealth is not through Wall Street, is by owning a piece of the action, owning your building, owning your shop. And not only owning it at any price, but buying it like I buy it, at the right price. And so we are having not as much success as I would like, but a lot of success of people in our neighborhoods getting the wealth instead of the outside developers getting it all. And so is the only way that I feel like that as a city that we can all can advance or to enlightenment or to wherever you want to go to is if all of us go. And so it's very important that we figure out how to go from the bottom up. And that's what it's all about with Incremental Development Alliance. And we are committed to creating 1,000 developers, and that's why we're sharing the secret handshakes. So John and Grayson and these other guys over here tomorrow, they will be sharing the secret handshake. When I grew up in Dallas, it was all the rich, the very rich, were developers and nobody ever told you anything. And so that's the thing that we've committed ourselves to doing. I work in my farm. I stay in my farm. I'm not coming to Columbus. I like it here. In fact, I wish I was probably here rather than some of the areas I work in. But I'm not. I'm committed to those areas, and that's what you have to do in your place. And that's how we rebuild this country, I believe, is by sharing and collaborating with each other all over the country. And that's what we're all about. And I appreciate the opportunity today to come and visit with you and see your great city, and hopefully I can visit that that hot dog place up here before I go. I got to get in there. So, thank you.
I appreciate everyone's attention. I hope you get the idea of what we're trying to do here and how inspirational this is. We spend a lot of time looking at our community and wishing something more could happen. And truly it is up to us. And it's up to us to find a way to reach out and help the entrepreneur and help the small business person and help the next generation find their home here in Columbus, that which we're so proud of. We're excited that you're here for Preservation for Profit. We hope that you are excited to hear the rest of our speakers. We do have the bar open in the back. There are snacks out in the lobby. I want you to have an opportunity to come speak to Monte and ask him some questions. If you didn't get him often enough, because I kept wanting him to say it over and over again, he would do these developments and then sell them to the occupants so that the occupants could drive their own wealth. It's a big key factor to the way we can teach people to own their own real estate and to make something of these areas that we want to see. We've seen lots of plans around City Village, Midtown, Uptown, and other places. This, I believe, is the way we're going to build those areas. So, thank you very much.